You know, over the years, I have collected an absolutely astounding amount of tools within my tinker shed here. And most of them, things like ratchets or wrenches, they're pretty universal. You can use them on a multitude of different projects, everything from cars to snowmobiles to fixing the table around your house if you had to. But every once in a while, I'll end up buying a tool that's very specific for a specific job. And today my friend Karl's going to come over for a visit, and I'm going to take a look at 5 electrical testing tools that you probably don't need, but you may want. So sit back, grab yourself something cold to drink, and enjoy Dino's Tinker Shed. Lots of tools means lots of cleaning up. I'll see you soon. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Dino.
Karl.
So today on the channel, we're going to talk about 5 electrical testing tools that I have that you don't need, Karl, but once you see them, you may want them. So there really is a couple basic tools, I think, that people have, and really it's all they need to sort of solve most electrical problems on a motorcycle or a snowmobile or something like that. One of them's a test light here, right?
Yeah, a test light comes in really handy for finding power.
Okay.
Like if you got a circuit and you want to see it has power, then you can check, go from there. Whether it's keyed power or just straight battery power.
Yeah. Well, you said you put heated grips on or something.
Yeah,
on
my
the bike,
V-Strom,
right?
yes. And there was a 2008 V-Strom, and it provided a wire, so we're told, for the heated grips. So we had to dig into the harness and had our test light ready, and
where you go, eh?
Keyed our ignition, found the hot wire, and it was great.
Yeah. So for those who've never used a test light, I think most people have. Basically, you hook the ground clamp on a solid ground. In this case, we're just going to hook it on the battery, and then you just test it and probe around, right, Karl?
Yes. There you go.
Now, do you have to worry about sparks or anything? Any worry? Like what happens if you touch it over here?
Well, nothing.
Nothing?
No.
Yeah. So they're pretty safe,
yeah,
right?
It's pretty foolproof. You get a good test. Like this is a decent one. I wouldn't say it's great, but depending how much you want to spend. Some of them make a little buzz noise when you.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this one I think was like $14.
Yeah.
I think I paid for this, and I've had this. I'm going to say 15, maybe even 20 years. I had to put a new end on it a while ago. If you do look for one, try to get one either with a decent clamp, something that works well. This one I actually put a stretchy cord on.
And one thing I noticed when you do use a test light, before you start testing, make sure it works, because you might have a bad connection or a burnt bulb, and you go into la-la land, because you're checking for power.
Put it around the battery.
And you don't have any.
Yeah.
And if you test it before you proceed with your testing, and make sure it's a known good test light, you're doing
that actually makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
The bulbs can get loose, or you say, you had to fix your end for the
and that's what was happening with mine, right? It was inconsistent.
And you're going crazy.
Okay, so that's the first most basic probably testing equipment you're ever going to buy, right?
Test light. And some of them do 6, 12, and 24.
Really?
I just bought one at Princess Auto. It does 6, 12, and 24.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So if you had multiple voltages,
because we used to work. Well, we had buses. I got the cat out of the bag there. We had buses, and they were 24 volt, and I had my 12 volt test light, and I went to check, and
bang.
Yeah, it was no longer a test light.
It was a paperweight. Yeah, so what's the other thing we got there?
Looks like we got a volt ohm meter.
Yeah, so a multimeter, right?
Multimeter, yeah.
Yeah, so I use this for a couple things, Karl. I'll use it just to test the battery voltage here. So I'll put the black onto the battery negative and then onto the positive there, and it'll tell you this is sitting at 12.3 volts, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So it'll sort of give you an idea of what the voltage is
Right.
on anything. It'll test ohms.
Right.
Capacitor. We can use this one for capacitance, I think.
Oh, wow.
And I do like this. If you do buy one, this is just me. I would get one that can do this, which is test for continuity. So here we have a fuse. You test that, so you know that there's conductivity or
Yeah.
continuity.
Continuity, yes. And that.
But, yeah. So this fuse doesn't have anything.
No.
So a good multimeter. This one honestly was maybe $30. It does everything. It's got auto ranging.
Yeah, and they're awesome.
Yeah. So these are your two basic
And
tools.
before you proceed testing, make sure it works well. Like
Right.
the battery's good in it, because once again you can
get into trouble.
you get into trouble with a bad meter.
Okay. So those are sort of the two basic tools.
Oh, one thing I want to add.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. Some of these fuses, I've seen them. I've used one once, and it had these were, I don't know if they make them anymore. It had an LED circuit in it.
No kidding.
So when the fuse blew, the little LED lit up. So he said, "Hey, there it is in the fuse panel or wherever."
Yeah.
He goes, "Hey, that's awesome. I can tell because you're searching for the blown fuse sometimes." But they let through enough amperage to dimly light an LED light.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
So-
And that can really mess you up. So I don't use those little LED
Fuses.
that they show you it's blowing, because
Yeah.
I was in La La Land for an hour or so.
Looking for some.
Oh yeah, because I didn't realize that it would let the amperage through.
Oh my gosh. Guys, it's crazy, eh? Like electrical can be the most frustrating thing in the world, I find. I honestly,
can be, yeah.
I'm not really good at it, and I know chasing stuff can just go insane, and that's some of the reasons I bought some of the things that I have here.
Oh, more goodies.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the battery off here, Karl. Or actually, no, I'll leave the battery on. I'm going to show you the first thing. And if you've been watching the channel, you're going to know this one. But let's take a look at the first item up for bids.
Okay, bring her over.
So, Karl, do you have any idea what that might be? You ever seen one of these? Well,
Yeah, much bigger.
okay.
Much bigger.
You know what it is then, eh?
I got an idea. I think it's
Yeah.
a battery tester.
Yeah, it's a battery health meter. So
Health meter.
It's a health meter, yeah. So this is very similar to probably the old carbon style load testers you would have in a garage, right? But it's small enough that it fits in a drawer.
Oh.
And it does a couple things. So if you remember, with a multimeter that we used before, we could tell this had about 12.3 volts in it. And that's great, but voltage doesn't necessarily tell you the health of a battery. It just tells you the voltage. What this does is it tells you the resistance that the battery has, so if it's starting to sulfate, or if there's damage inside, and it will give you a rough idea of the percentage of health that the battery has. So the way this works, Karl, is there's no battery.
Oh, there's no
It
battery.
runs strictly off this battery here. So what we do is, if you want to hook up the red one over there, you hook yours up, I'll hook mine up, and the thing comes to life here. So this tells us we have 12.3 volts, which was what the multimeter told us. But what this can do is it does a few different functions. So you can do a battery test. You can hook it up to a car, so if it's inside the car itself still or on your motorcycle, you can do a cranking test. It'll tell you how well it performs when you're starting your vehicle. It can do a charging test, so it'll tell you how much output your stator or your alternator is producing, which you can test with a multimeter, right? You don't need this. And it'll also log all that information for you so you can review it. So the way this works is you come in, we'll just test the health of this battery to see what it does. It'll ask you what type of battery it is. This is just a flooded battery, flooded lead acid battery like that's in your car. It'll ask you what the cold cranking amps are. This battery, I've already put it in, but you cycle it up and down here. This is, I'm doing it upside down here again. Let's see here, 310 cold cranking amps. That's what this battery's rated for.
Okay, so it automatically computes that in that little...
Yeah. So now you just hit enter,
Okay.
and it load tests it. So it takes a couple seconds, but you can kind of see here, it'll tell us what health the battery is. So this is sitting at 85% health. it says to charge it. The thing is, I just took this off charge about an hour ago.
Oh.
So I took it off charge. It rated really good. Now it's already down to 85%. This battery, if it sat for more than maybe a day or two, it would drop down to about 59% health. So I know this battery's not really all that good. I've actually replaced it in my snowmobile. But this little unit tests all that for you, Karl.
So it shouldn't fare well with a load test, then. It wouldn't really, it drops right off.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So it gives you a little bit more insight and helps you make the determination on whether to replace the battery or if the battery is the problem that you're having within the charging system. Okay, want to look at the next thing?
Sure.
Okay, I can get this off here and I'll show you the next thing that we got.
It says 12 volts. Negative, positive. I've never seen one before.
No, I'd never seen one either, Karl. I saw this just cruising around on Amazon one day, and I was looking for batteries, aftermarket batteries for my Milwaukee 12 volt system. I have an M12 that I use within the system here, but I hated paying for the batteries. So
It's gonna be expensive.
yeah, so while I was looking for aftermarket batteries, this thing came up. And what this is it takes your 12 volt battery and it turns it into a 12 volt power supply.
Oh.
So I can use this to test the lights on my trailer, or if you have, small pieces of tech that you want to test, light bulbs, things like that, you can just hook it up with the alligator clips. And this thing, it works really good. It actually comes with a wall-mounted bracket.
Wow.
So if you wanted, you could just screw it to the wall, and then this just lifts off, so it's portable. Or you can actually snap the battery, and then you have, you could hook it into a 12 volt system.
You can have it on your bench and just for testing.
That's right. So it's really good, like I say, for testing lights or small motors, things like that.
Probably good for electronic devices for letting smoke out.
I would think give them the smoke test. Yeah. This little guy here. So I've got an 8 amp hour battery on that. I can light up every single light on my trailer with this. I just hook it up to a small pigtail. It'll do the internal lighting, everything. So I don't have to bring a big battery out if I need to work inside the trailer. That little guy will actually light up all those LEDs.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so
if you're wiring something up, like external lights or extra lights, just try them before, make sure you got a good ground and just.
Well, a lot of garages, I think they have like a cart, right, with a bunch of like big batteries in them, and they can do a lot of things. This wouldn't obviously replace that, but for me, it works really good when I need a little 12 volt power.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, so basically just a little thing. So anyway, I think this was like dirt cheap. I think that might have been, I don't know, $11. It was dirt cheap, but I use it more often than I ever thought I would.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you want to see how bright a light is before you put it on, you can fire it up.
Well, why don't we use it when we look at our next item?
Sure.
Okay? All right, I'll put that there. I'll go get the next thing. Okay, Karl, so here is the next thing. Do you know or have an idea what that might be?
Looks like maybe might be checking for amperage.
It's test for amperage, that's right. So I remember you telling me a story about one of your old supervisors that had a problem with an old car where they kept blowing fuses. He couldn't figure out where the fuses were, and what did he have? He had a cigarette lighter problem or something?
Yeah, it was an old New Yorker or something. In the back seat, somebody had put the kid in the back seat apparently had put a penny in the cigarette lighter and pushed it down.
Yeah.
Or didn't push it down and making contact, and it's killing the car.
Yeah, he dropped dead, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes, you know this, you'll keep popping fuses, you'll have a problem where you'll blow blade fuses, and you're tempted to put, let's say, from a 10 amp to a 15 amp fuse, right? And you're not really sure what's being drawn on it, that kind of thing. This actually will test the amperage on each one of your fused circuits. So the way this one works is you pull out your fuse out of the fuse panel and you stick this bladed sort of simulated fuse into the fuse panel, and it has a 30 amp fuse, so this will work up to 30 amps.
Okay.
And then you turn on all your accessories, and this will tell you how many amps is being drawn in real time
on that circuit.
So I want to show you how it works.
Be great.
So to do that, I'm going to use this fuse holder that I've modified with a couple alligator clips.
Oh yeah.
So let's assume this is your fuse panel.
Yes.
We're going
A fuse would normally go in there.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're just going to plug this in as if it's your fuse panel. And now we're going to use our little battery thing. So we'll make this the hot line. So I'll just hook this up. So now this comes your hot line.
Red's hot, right?
Red's hot. Make sure that's there. Now we can test. In this case, there's two different circuits.
Okay. Do we need a ground here?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the black goes to the ground, and this will
Good thing I
light
know.
up. There you go. So we know this light, that's pulling 0.5 amps on its own, just
Okay.
on that.
But it's a dual filament?
Dual filament, yeah. So we can
Okay.
see what the other filament is.
Yeah.
Just clip it in. Clip it in that side. I'll keep this hooked up to the ground. There we go. So we put them both on. Will they both light up, Carl? No, maybe that one's burnt out.
It's a dud.
It's a dud. Well, let's try the little guys over there. So this is one of the marker lights
Okay.
that you would have on, say, the side of a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what that is.
So hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 0.3 amps.
And normally black is negative.
Yes. 9
times out of 10, unless it's some kind of,
Something wacky.
well, probably an international truck or something.
Now, what's interesting is this came out of my old snowmobile trailer. I had a clamshell snowmobile trailer that had probably 6 or 7 of these on there. So it would have had 3 or 4 amps just in those on the running lights.
0.3.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting is I replaced all of them with LEDs. That one over there is an LED. So why don't we put that one on and see how many amps the LED draws?
Okay.
Get this one out of here. It draws no amps.
Come on.
Most of these LEDs don't draw a full amp, so it doesn't even read on this.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and they're brighter than the incandescents. It's amazing, and they last long time.
So nice on the motorcycle because you're not loading up a circuit.
Exactly. If you can replace your LED or your incandescents with LED, you put much less
It just
wear
went
and tear. Oh, I think it just shut off. Let's see here. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really handy for tracing out
That's awesome.
circuits that are maybe
Yeah.
overloaded, Carl. I don't use it all that often.
No, that's great. You're putting a car, like
Yeah.
a car, you're putting a stereo in your car or an amplifier. You want to see what's going on.
Or, like the DR650 has some auxiliary circuits, right? So we put some running lights on yours. You can hook that up, and you
Yeah.
can determine how many amps that whole circuit has on it and whether or not you're going to have problems with
Yeah.
it. So again, this one was a little bit more money. I think this was about $40. I got that at Princess Auto. And it's, you can probably do it other ways. I've heard of people...
But great for putting accessories in vehicles.
It's
And
great.
actually checking for a draw on your vehicle.
Exactly.
You got like a 15 amp circuit that keeps blowing.
Yeah.
And it's drawing 30 amps.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
Or
No.
somebody's loaded something on that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. So if you buy a used motorcycle or a used Skidoo or something like that, and you're having problems, that tool could help you out immensely for sure.
Yeah, when I bought my bike, it had some interesting wiring on it, which was pretty elaborate, but we weren't sure what it was. So we just eliminated it and started fresh. And
Yeah. But if you were to build up a fuse panel or whatever, you can use that to stay within your
Yeah.
specified wire gauge, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool tool.
like it.
All right, let's take a look. I think I got 2 more things or something to look at. Let's have a look at them.
All right.
I think you showed me one of these years ago,
Yeah.
and I ended up buying one.
It's a nice thing to have to see if you get spark.
Yeah. So basically, you do not need one of these, really. You can test for spark just by taking a spark plug, putting it into your coil or your spark plug lead and testing it on the side of the engine.
Yeah,
right?
looking for spark.
Yeah. What this does, I think, is better. It goes in between, so you have your, coil here. You would hook this in like that, And then this would go to your spark plug. You wouldn't even take spark plug out of the machine.
No. Inline.
Inline. You turn the machine over, and there's a small light that is in here that lights up.
Yep.
The stronger that is, the stronger your spark is. You can even run the machine with this thing in, and it'll show you how hot your spark is. Absolutely don't need that. You don't need it. But if you've ever been whacked by a spark plug,
I've seen it happen.
you'll go and buy one of these real fast because they are not expensive.
I watched a fella get thrown off a hood once.
Did you really? With spark plug?
He replaced this. He was the human tester.
And how did that work?
It didn't work out too good.
No.
We heard the scream. We knew he had spark.
Really? Was it 12, 24 volts?
No, it was 12.
12 volt?
But we had spark in his little truck.
What does a spark plug run at? Like 11,000 volts or something, right?
Well, depending on your ignition system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't, even though it's low amperage.
Yeah, you get that high those hot rods that can.
Yeah. It's you don't want to get hit with one of these. It's like peeing on an electric fence.
Yeah, you get a little zap. It's like.
Yeah, my cousin had me do that when I was a kid. I wasn't too bright.
Hold this, right?
Yeah. But it's a cheap tool, Karl, and like you got me onto these years ago.
Yeah.
It makes it easier, and the nice thing about it is one person can test it. Instead of holding it and doing this, you put it in line, you hit your starter, you pull your starter cord, whatever. It tells you right away visually whether or not it's working.
Really?
Okay, I got one tool left, and I'll leave this coil here because it sort of has something to do with that.
All right.
Okay.
What do we have here, Dino?
Well, Karl, this is something you probably don't need, but is really handy to have, and that is an auxiliary tachometer.
Oh.
So this is a tachometer that you can permanently mount in a vehicle. It's got a couple screw holes here that you can mount that. Or what I use it for is if I have a small engine, like I did that video on the generator where I rebuilt it, you can temporarily install this and it'll tell you what the engine RPM is basically. So especially that generator, it needed I think 3,600 RPMs to start actually generating power. This helped me determine what it was. It was actually sitting around 2,800 and I revved it up.
So would this hook into the spark lead or where would it go?
Yeah. So I'll use this coil as an example. Now this will do multi engines like V4s, V8s, or it'll do singles. It's usually set on single for me because I'm either using it on my DR650 or I'm testing some kind of small piece of equipment. But basically, it works off induction current. So all you have to do to use this is you take a small length of the wire and you wrap it around the coil, the high tension coil lead, about 4, 5, 6 times. And I'll usually put a little bit of black tape on there just to hold it in place, like this. And then when you start the vehicle, it'll pick up that current pulse, and it'll indicate it as RPM out here on the unit.
So I see it says what, S2 and S1.
Yeah, that's every time I adjust it, I have to get the manual out. I'll be honest with you.
All right.
But these buttons allow you to set whether it's a 4-cycle engine or a 4-cylinder engine or a single-cylinder engine, but it also adjusts the pulse rate. So some engines, if they're like a twin-cylinder engine, will spark both spark plugs at the same time, and some will alternate the spark plugs. This allows you to actually tune the unit to that particular piece of equipment or engine that you have, right? So it allows the motor.
Or is that an engine?
I think it's a motor.
All right.
Because you ride a motorcycle.
All right.
That's an engine. It allows you to determine what the engine. Inside joke.
Yeah.
It allows you to determine what your engine RPM is, and it lets you tune things up, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a simple piece of equipment that we have that I find really useful, and it was dirt cheap too. I think it was like $11.
Yeah, because I think the DR doesn't have a tach.
Doesn't have a tach. I've almost thought about putting that into the DR permanently. But then I get thinking, do I really don't really need it? I'm not out redlining all the time anyway.
No.
And I've toyed with the idea of buying one of those vapor dashes.
I've seen one of those.
Yeah, and I kind of like those. And then I'm back and forth whether I'm going to do
What
that.
are they worth though?
I don't think they're a lot, like $150 or something.
I've seen one on a DR Park. I was looking at it.
Yeah, they look really good. Gives you a lot of information. I might look at that over the winter when I get the bike in here. I might do that. But for me, it just allows me to tune it. And with the DR, it allows me to set my idle. That's what I really wanted it for.
Okay.
It's because I'm not hitting the rev limiter or whatever on it. I just wanted to make sure it was revving or idling, at the right RPM.
Yeah, you had some pieces.
So anyway, so that's the different things,
Cool.
Carl. So you can go overboard, obviously, buying knick-knack tools and stuff. But I like to buy stuff and then I can use it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that you have these tools. That way I can come over and use them.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I don't have
So
to buy them.
So anyway, I hope everybody out there found it interesting. I know we probably ramble on a little bit, but these are sort of 5 tools. If you like this type of thing, I've got some other odd tools that aren't electrical based that you can always have a look at too, eh, Carl?
Yeah, and you can experiment with it. You get the tool, read the instructions on the tool. You can play around with it, get to know how to use the tool.
Exactly.
And it can be fun and it can be kind of frustrating sometimes when you're trying to find something.
It can be.
But I'm impressed by the LEDs, how they don't draw
The
anything.
LEDs are. If you have an older trailer and you want to eliminate all the problems with your older trailer, just switch everything over to LEDs. Make sure the grounds are good, and I've had very good success with those.
Yeah, like you got the LED headlight.
I have an LED. I have a
I wonder what that's drawing.
Well, we could test it at some point.
We should.
Yeah, I have a Cyclops headlight in my DR.
Let's see what that's.
Okay. Well, you know what? You don't have an LED, do you?
No.
Well, then why don't we plan on putting an LED headlight in your bike? And we'll test the difference and the output on those. So let's make that a video at some point, Carl.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So again, I hope everybody enjoyed this. Leave a comment if you want to see other videos similar. You think so?
Yeah,
okay. And
be nice.
Be nice. And anyway, so I'm Dino, and
Karl.
my buddy Karl here is awesome. And we'll see you again soon here on Dino's Tinker Shed as we babble along and do crazy stuff.